Let's talk about how to pass Barclays' first round interview in 2024. What's up guys, it's Mike from Geography English. If you don't already know me, I break down the interview processes for world famous companies to help you get hired faster. Today we're going to be talking about one of the biggest UK banks, Barclays, and how you can pass their first round interview. We're going to go through 5 fast facts about the company which you can use in your answer for why do you want to work for Barclays. I'm going to talk about the interview process, and then we're going to be going through 10 of the most common questions that we found based upon our research from publicly available sources. Let's get started. Barclays has a high level of employee satisfaction, with 86% of its staff saying that they would recommend Barclays as a great place to work. Through its community support programs, Barclays has upskilled over 3 million people in 2023 through its various charitable efforts. Barclays has 20 million personal banking customers in the UK and serves 25% of UK corporates. Barclays, in contradictions to some of its peers like Lloyds and HSBC, has actually been driving to open more physical branches, with plans to open 159 branches in addition to 300 plus locations across the UK. In 2023, Barclays was ranked number 1 for investment banking earnings and number 6 globally. So let's talk about Barclays' interview format. And I've got to be honest with you, I found it quite interesting to go through because what a lot of the candidates reported, whether they be interns, graduates or professionals, was Barclays really put a lot of emphasis on competency questions, talked very little about technical questions, commercial awareness questions, aside from quant, investment banking, sales and trading, and of course software development. Now, quite unusually, I found for such a large bank, and Barclays is one of the largest banks in the UK, lots of people reported lots of different formats and styles, whether that be a phone interview, a live video interview, a recorded video interview, but most people reported being asked 6 to 8 questions. And one thing that came up time and time again was how important it was to remember and reiterate Barclays' 5 core values, which can be remembered with the mnemonic RISES: respect, integrity, service, excellent, and stewardship. This was something that was repeated through the levels of interviews, all the way from internship through to director level. So this is definitely something that I recommend that you look into prior to having your Barclays interview. Now, we did come across a lot of different questions for Barclays, which were amalgamated into our research. There was about 20 to 30 questions we felt came up reasonably regularly, but I really wanted to trim this down for this video for the top 10 very common questions that you can come across and how to think about answering each of these questions. Question number 1, name a time you've dealt with a difficult colleague and how did you deal? Now, this is a competency-based question which you should answer using the STAR-based format. A couple of important things for STAR, which is going to apply for all of the competency questions that we're going through, is the majority of your emphasis should be placed upon the actions which you took. I would say up to 70% of your answer. So, for example, with this question, you're talking about how you're effectively resolving conflict and working together with someone to reach a common result, whether that be academically or professionally or in terms of extracurricular activity. The other thing is be specific. So say when it was, like what year it was, where it was, were you at university, were you at a job, and also the names of the people involved. Of course, you can change people's first names, but the reason being is it makes the story a lot easier to follow and it makes it easier for you to say it. A lot of times when you're answering competency questions, think about maybe not speaking to your friends, but explaining something to your mum or dad or to somebody in the family who maybe you wouldn't be quite as laughy, jokey, or in my case sweary, but you would kind of have to explain something in a really simple way. Now, when you're dealing with a difficult colleague, first of all, what makes them difficult? Secondly, what have you done to try to solve this? Generally, what you would try and do from a professional point of view is just speak to that person one-on-one. You don't want to shame them in front of anybody else. And also that could ultimately make the situation a lot more difficult, particularly if, in my experience, when somebody is difficult to deal with, they've got their own stuff going on, whether that be external or internal. And I really want to take the chance to speak to them one-to-one and say, hey, what you did there, I didn't think that was really cool. Is there something that's going on with you that I need to know? Just trying to understand the why behind the behavior, because my experience, very few people just genuinely act out of malice and are essentially evil. Most people will just say, look, I'm really tired, I've got something going on. Actually, I don't like that guy because we've got history together. And then explaining what it is that you've done. What's the plan of action for you to resolve that conflict? Maybe you bring people together, maybe you help that person out. A really common way to answer this question for graduates is they'll talk about the difficulty is essentially the absence of a person. So there's 4 of you that are working on a group project, and then one person just basically buggers off and leaves the rest of you to get on with it. And you have to track that person down and say, hey dude, what's going on with you? Because we're drowning a little bit here. Question 2, why Barclays? When you're preparing to answer why you want to work for Barclays, please don't give a generic answer about how it's a big bank, got a global reputation, and it's going to be really great for starting your career. What this comes across as is really quite egocentric and a little bit arrogant. The other thing to remember is whether this be a recorded video interview that's being passed by artificial intelligence, or it's a live interview with somebody from human resources, a member of your team, a manager or director within the team that you're applying for, all they really want to know is that you've done your homework. You spent a little bit of time, 10, 15 minutes to learn a bit more about the bank and why it interests you. It's really easy to find out facts about Barclays you can read on their website. My favorite trick at the minute is just downloading the annual report and asking ChatGPT to generate 25 to 50 facts, then picking out the facts that I think are pretty cool. That's where I got the 5 fast facts from today. If you really want to level up your answer, then maybe just throw in one of the facts that personally resonates with you. Maybe it's something to do with a charitable project, maybe it's something to do with the company going carbon net zero, or a particular technology that they're using. But this is a great opportunity to put a little bit of personality into it, but really you're just demonstrating that you've done your homework about the company itself. Question number 3, why are you a good fit for this role? Now, this is basically the same as being asked, why do you want to do this job? Why would you be good at this job? Why do you think you're the right person for this job? These are all essentially the same questions. Now, an important mistake that a lot of people make with this is that they then spend the next 2 minutes just talking about themselves. Then they're like, I'm great because I've been to university and I've got this experience and this and this and this and this. And the example that I like to give whenever I'm coaching people one-to-ones, I say, hey, if you're interviewing with me and I'm looking for a chef who makes burgers, what's the only thing I really want to hear from you? And of course the response is that I can make burgers. So employers are really only looking for the things that are in the job description and that you understand the job that you're going to be doing. So employers are really just looking for the things that are in the job description and that you can do those things. Now, I do know based upon experience that Barclays job descriptions are not particularly helpful, especially when it comes to graduates. But something that you can do is just Google the job description and find something that's more helpful at another company or on a website like prospects.ac.uk. Really, all you want to be doing is, say for example, you're applying to be a derivatives trader, is first of all you would explain what does a derivatives trader do? And then you'd pick out 2 or 3 key skills that you believe are important for a derivatives trader and why you can demonstrate those skills. You actually spend very little time again talking about yourself. You're really just explaining and demonstrating that you understand the role and you understand why you're a good fit for that role. Question number 4, tell me about a time you led a group to success. So again, another competency question. For me, leadership is really about communication and allocation of resources. This is not the opportunity to talk about how you were the Superman of the group and you did everything and without you, the whole group would have fallen apart. A good leader for me is somebody who really grabs the ball by the horns, works harder than everybody else, and is there to help people to facilitate the end result. So when you're talking about leadership, talk about communication, how people understand what they're doing, how you help them along the way, how you build up people's confidence, how you help them to resolve any difficulties that they're having. For example, they may have many different projects on at the same time. And finally, what's the successful result that you guys achieved all together? Big bonus point for me whenever I'm listening for answers about leadership is that a great leader will put their team above themselves. A poor leader will put themselves above the team and look to get that recognition, that praise that realistically couldn't have been achieved without their teammates. Question number 5, give me an example where you led a continuous process of improvement project. Now at first, when you hear this question, and it wasn't particularly common, but it was a bit different, which is why I wanted to include it, you might think, what the heck are they talking about? A continuous process improvement project. It's basically a project where you get better at doing stuff. That's pretty easy. That could be studying for exam, doing your essays, going to work and getting lots of work done and being much better. For example, a process of continuous improvement happens in the first 3 months of a job. Whenever I have somebody new that starts working with me, I always say to them, look, it's going to take 3 months. They're like, no, I'm going to get used to it really quickly. And I'm like, trust me, I've been hiring and firing people since I was in my early 20s. It just takes time to get used to stuff, whether that's leaving on time, getting in on time, being prepared for the work day ahead, getting to know the people, and just gelling as a unit. Because essentially a business, a course, a university, whatever you're doing is a biological organism made up of people and processes and randomness and all those things that make that place exciting, but also create a certain sense of adjustment. For example, for me, my continuous process of improvement over the years, a lot of times has been to delegate a little bit more, to get up a little bit earlier, plan a little bit better, to be a bit more organized, and to be quite meticulous with the way that I manage my time, purely because otherwise I find myself getting quite stressed and overwhelmed with all the things that I have to do, or working through the weekend, which is not something that I want to be doing all the time. Question 6, tell me about yourself. Now, a couple of the examples that I read from people who'd gone through the interviews expressed their dismay that somebody hadn't sat there and read their CV prior to doing an interview. Now, an interesting thing to think about is how boring it is to actually do interviews as a person. Now, I've done numerous interviews, I've also done numerous final interviews, not to mention the thousands of hours that I've spent coaching people. And what I tend to find is, really, I want to hear it from you. I am a little bit copy blind to reading CVs, because by now most people's CVs pretty much look the same unless they're absolutely stellar and completely insane or really bad. And also I want to understand how you sell yourself. If you don't have a good personal introduction, you can look up Tell Me About Yourself plus Job Ready English and get the free worksheet, or get that down below in Application Success Secrets. If you don't know how to answer this question, then put Tell Me About Yourself plus Job Ready English into search bar up above, or just download the free worksheet down in the link in the description below in Application Success Secrets. A good personal introduction needs to be rehearsed. It should be written out, and it's something that you can do now even if you've got no interviews on the horizon. But it's a really great way to understand if somebody can really sell themselves and also deliver a good pitch. Most people's personal introduction, whether that be a graduate or professional, quite divery, when really all I'm looking for is, what are you doing now? What have you done in the past? What would you like to do in the future? Work experience, extracurricular skills and interests, and then just hobbies, and ending with a hook. And that's it. Question 7, tell me about a time when you faced a challenge. Now, a really important thing for this question is to make sure that the challenge is noteworthy and there is a multi-stage process for solving that challenge. So a challenge is not a problem, it's not a basic, oh, this didn't work, so I did this and then it did work. I tend to think this has 2, 3 or 4 stages. For example, organizing an event, or doing a dissertation, or overcoming the fact that you failed an exam, or you got a low mark on an essay, or losing a job and getting a new job, or just looking for jobs in general. These are multifaceted problems that essentially create a challenge, not something that's so simplistic that you can basically answer it in 20 seconds. And really importantly, when you're delivering the answer to this, and we've all had challenges, and I find a lot of people actually find this a reasonably easy question to answer, because most people like to talk about their struggles if they're given the opportunity. Think about teaching somebody how to overcome that challenge rather than just explaining the challenge. When you think about teaching somebody rather than just telling them, it really changes the way that you think about answering this question. Question 8, what is your greatest strength and weakness? Now, the greatest strength can be any of the key skills that have been identified within the job description, whether it be your numeracy, your technical ability, your interpersonal skills. Often I get asked, yeah, but is one strength more important than the other? Probably not in the grand scheme of things. What is important is just really giving a good example for this strength. So if it's great interpersonal skills, you've probably got about 60 seconds just to demonstrate why you have really good interpersonal skills. And you can really think about this like a compressed star answer. Greatest weakness doesn't really matter. The weakness is just a lesson. It's just a failure where you have learned something and how you have applied that into your normal everyday life. I always like to say to people, give it a hint of personality and also make it genuine. The more genuine and the more real that your answers are, the more believable that you'll come across and the easier that you'll find delivering your answers. Question 9, give examples of where you have shown respect, integrity, service, and excellence. Now this is a series of questions. Respect for me is basically about listening to other people and giving them the respect that they deserve, whether that be customers or colleagues. Integrity is doing the thing that you say that you would do. Service is about delivering a great service to a customer, and excellence is about going above and beyond. And really dig deep and think to yourself where you've what Barclays is really looking for is somebody who's doing a little bit more than the norm, a little bit more than what is expected of them. For me, all of these key values really revolve around the fact that you're working beyond a given set of expectations. And finally, question 10, discuss a time when you have had a conflict. Now, for me, dealing with a conflict is more than just dealing with a disagreement. It could be as well leading a team and dealing with a conflict between two people within that team. It could be with a customer. It could be between a customer and a member of staff. It could be between two members of staff. But essentially, there's some sort of butting of heads. It's not like we disagreed and then we take a vote and then it was fine, right? And number one is about listening to that person, understanding the nature of the conflict. Why is it? Generally, a conflict tends to come from the fact that there is a miscommunication, right? So a customer thinks that they were going to get a particular phone and they haven't, and they phone customer service and they're really upset. But then once we speak to the customer and say, okay, Mr. Jones, can I just confirm with you, what phone is it that you expected to receive? And Mr. Jones says, I thought I was getting the iPhone 16, right? And you say, oh, I can see here that you've received the iPhone 14, is that correct? And Mr. Jones is like, yeah, no, I really didn't want to get that. And go, I completely understand why you're upset. Just hold the line for me. I'm just gonna look into this and understand why this has happened. Instantly, and it's the same for most people, if you feel like you have been heard and that somebody is going to do something about it, it really just takes the pressure out of the situation. This is a very common de-escalation tactic that you can use in your everyday life. When somebody's really upset, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just say, so what I'm hearing is, and just say back what they've just said to me. So I can be absolutely clear that that's the problem, and then I can go off and try and find a solution. Guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this really quite long Barclays video. I wanted to go through as many questions as possible. If you have, make sure you hit like, drop me a comment down below and let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know how you got on with the interview, and I wish you all the best of luck in your upcoming success. Bye.